What does meta even mean? Why should I play the best class even if I'm doing normal content? Because that's what humans do. They always want to have an advantage. But this video is going to be talking about some of the classes that I feel are going to be strong in 8.3. If you're watching this video, it's looking very similar. The meta is looking somewhat unchanged, except with maybe tanking balance, because Blizzard spent a lot of time rebalancing tanks, rebalancing healers. Mistweavers received a lot of the changes. Fistweaving is back. It's not going to be enough to bring Fistweavers or Mistweavers to the top. We'll have to see. We'll have to do some predictions. And I want you to think about this question throughout this video. Should you play a meta class? If you're doing lower end content, should you be forced to play a class that you don't enjoy because the guild needs it? Because of how Mythic Plus queuing or solo process is like. It's super toxic. Let's get started. So let's look at the old data, because I feel a lot of the things that happen in patch 8.2, 8.25, a lot of them can be transferred to patch 8.3. Even though the Mythic Plus or the new Mythic Plus affix Awaken is looking very interesting, it has certain advantages to stealth classes. I feel Blizzard felt bad about having Brewmaster monks being one of the strongest Mythic Plus tanks and being one of the strongest raiding tanks, to an extent where a lot of people were stacking Brewmasters in raids, and all of a sudden a lot of people were playing Brewmasters in Mythic Plus, and one tanking spec was dominating everything basically. You can expect Brewmasters to dip a little lower in patch 8.3 because they are receiving nerfs, they are receiving bug fixes that are going to reduce their self-healing. And I feel a good bet for 8.3 is going to be Prot Warrior, because Prot Warrior is the second best tank right now. It's not getting any changes, Vision of Perfection is getting buffed, so you can see Prot climbing. A lot of people have been talking about Prot Paladins, they've been talking about Blue Decay making a comeback because of how it scales at the end of the expansion. They also have been talking about the underdog classes like Guardian Druid and Vengeance Demon Hunters making a sort of comeback. So everything's kind of all over the place. And I love it. Mythic Plus tank balance is looking extremely spicy. A lot of these tanks might make a comeback because their corrupted weapon is strong. I know. Blood Decay had an insanely overpowered corrupted weapon. It got nerfed. And a lot of people are putting down Blood Decays, but we'll see how the scaling is going to work. At the end of the day, I feel Prot Warrior, statistically speaking, is a solid bet for the new Mythic Plus affix. If you look at the healers, this is where Blizzard made a lot of changes. Look at this. Resto Druid at high levels, at plus 20 Mythic Plus, is just so dominant. And what they're doing, they're nerfing Resto Druids. They're nerfing their throughput, they're nerfing their damage, and they're also nerfing Holy Paladins. Holy Paladins are arguably the second best Mythic Plus healer at this given point, but they are getting nerfed. But a lot of people, again, they're not worried about this because Holy Paladin scales really well. Vision of Perfection is getting a certain buff. At the end of the day, a lot of people are looking at Holy Paladin as a very solid choice for Mythic Plus pushing, and Mistweavers are coming back. Mistweavers are getting Fistweaving back because Rising Mist got buffs, Rising Mist got kind of introduced into the rotation because things like Renewing Mist got buffs. Renewing Mist is a solid or a big part of your Fistweaving build. And all of a sudden, at least in Mythic Plus, a lot of the Mistweavers are looking to play this Fistweaving build, are looking to spread the Renewing Mist around and have a solid overall healing boost. So there's been a big talk about this triple healer threat in Mythic Plus. Resto Druid, Holy Paladin, and Mistweaver Monk. Which one is going to come out the top? I feel Resto Druid is still going to be the king purely because of its utility, battle res. It works really well with certain affixes. Overall, if you really wanted to nerf a Resto Druid from being the king of Mythic Plus, you have to remove spells. And I don't think Blizzard is going to do that. So I still feel Resto Druid is going to be a solid, one of the best choices for Mythic Plus in 8.3. And after that, you're going to have your Holy Paladin Mistweaver battling out for that second position. And maybe some of these healers are going to be prepared for certain affixes, for certain dungeon comps. So it's very interesting. What does this mean for other healers like Discipline Priest, Holy Priest, and Resto Shaman? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I feel a lot of people are going to invest their time into the top 3 and the bottom 3 are going to be left behind. So it's actually really sad because I was thinking about maining a Resto Shaman in terms of rating, in terms of Mythic Plus as well. We'll have to see, but right now, Resto Druid, Holy Paladin, and Mistweaver are looking to be solid choices. In terms of range DPS, and I'm gonna say this multiple times throughout the video, all of the range DPS balance in Mythic Plus and raiding is looking very, very solid. It's the one section with Blizzard has gone it pretty much down, with one exception in Mythic Plus, and that is Warlocks. None of the Warlock specs right now are all that popular in Mythic Plus, while in raiding, their utility like, portals, gateways, magic dispel on Mythic Ashara is extremely valuable. And Warlock will find a spot. Actually, a lot of people are recruiting heavily for Warlocks, for raids, because there's not that many of them out there, or at least it feels like there's not many of them out there. So I do feel the raiding or range DPS balance is very, very solid for patch 8.3 in terms of Mythic Plus, in terms of raids. And if you look at melee, it's a different story. And I feel this graph right here that shows you Outlaw Rogues being extremely strong, Assassination is still there, and Havoc Demon Hunters being very strong. This is going to carry over into 8.3. I still feel Rogues are going to be very strong. Havoc Demon Hunters are looking to be very, very solid choice. Again, I have to mention the melee DPS that's been rising, and that is Fury Warrior. They've been climbing. Even in raid situations, Fury Warriors are performing really, really well. So I feel if you are looking to play a Fury Warrior, if Fury was your spec that you really enjoyed, it's the time to play right now, and you can make it work. In terms of other melee DPS specs, I'm not quite sure. I feel like Unholy Death Knight can have very good results, even in hierarchies, if you play the right dungeons, because their uncapped AoE is actually insane. So I do feel Unholy is somewhat underrepresented in terms of what it can provide. Their AoE damage is just so crazy. And again, this is Eternal Palace patch 8.25. A lot of the things here that you see is based on 75 percentile mythic representation. They're going to change. Shadow Priest was an insanely strong range DPS spec in Eternal Palace because of the multi-dotting and things like that. And they were really, really strong for the end tier bosses as well. And that's going to change because Shadow Priests are getting nerfs. But they're still looking extremely strong because Nyalota patch 8.3, there is a lot of cleave damage. But also there's always priority damage. So even if you are a single target spec, you'll still see a good playtime, at least in my opinion. I have to mention, Fury Warriors are rising and rising and rising. Havoc Demon Hunters, mandatory, or at least a Demon Hunter is mandatory, but you can't buy anything to replace that Havoc Demon Hunter or Demon Hunter 5% magic debuff or a Monk 5% physical damage debuff. So you need to have, at least in my opinion for the new raid, one Monk and one Demon Hunter. And there's been a lot of discussion, which Monk do we bring? And I feel at least for early progression, a lot of the tanking setups are going to be probably Blood DK, because Blood DK is looking really strong in Nyalota because of the magic damage. Some people have been talking about Vengeance Demon Hunters as well, which might be very interesting. Again, I mentioned this throughout the video. Tanking balance is looking to change. Healer balance is looking to somewhat change. But the setup, Blood DK and maybe a Brewmaster Monk. And Brewmaster Monk is going to fill that void of giving you that 5% physical debuff, which is very, very important. A lot of people are looking at the Brewmaster because they don't feel Windwalker is going to be substantial enough or strong enough in the role, and the same with Mistweaver. So Brewmaster is still looking like a decent choice. We'll have to see how Windwalker buffs are going to affect them, because Windwalkers are getting buffs and Mistweavers are getting a whole new playstyle. If you look at healing, I feel the healing balance is going to be somewhat similar. You'll still have your Holy Paladin, you'll still have your Disciplined Priest. Their passive DPS, damage reduction, they're just too strong in terms of what they provide. And that healing team is going to be kind of completed with the Resto Shaman because of its utility and a lot of other things. So you have this holy trinity of healers with Holy Paladin, Disciplined Priest, and Resto Shaman. And then if you have a spot for a healer, Mistweaver is looking very interesting. It received a lot of buffs. Fist Weaving is going to be viable, at least for bosses where you can hit the boss all the time, get that Rising Sun Kick resets and things like that. Not all of the bosses allow you to do that. Sometimes you have to swap and there's a lot of movement, so you might swap to Upwelling build. So there is going to be a lot of per boss talent swaps for Mistweaver, or at least I expect that in the future. But if we talk about raid setup for healers, a lot of the fights are looking to be 4 or 5 healed, and I feel a lot of the top end guilds are just going to stack like Holy Paladins, maybe a couple of Holy Paladins, maybe a couple of Disciplined Priests, and complement it with the Resto Shaman, and that's going to be their setup. I still feel that all the other healers like Resto Druids, Holy Priest, Mistweavers are going to be on the fringe. which kinda sucks, but that is my prediction for 8.3. And all of this talk about these meta classes, the best classes, I didn't mention Feral Druid, I didn't mention Enhancement Shaman, these classes are garbage, I should never touch them, they're so bad, delete Feral Druid. It's not true. A lot of the times you can get lost in this meta discussion, you can get lost in these best classes for Mythic Plus, best classes for Mythic rating, and my advice is that if you are a type of player that enjoys Enhancement Shaman, go and play Enhancement Shaman. Go and find a guild that doesn't need these meta classes. Go and push your own Mythic Plus keys. Enjoy the spec, the class that you play, and have a good time. A lot of the people sometimes only enjoy playing the game because they're going to be topping the meters, healing meters, damage meters, or whatever. So it really depends on the type of player that you are. But there has been a lot of discussion. A lot of the Mythic top end guilds have mentioned that you should not worry about the class that you play unless you're like a top 10 Mythic rating guild, which I feel is fine in a perfect world. But a lot of the times even Mythic entry level guilds, they might not be the best players in the world. They might want to get every bit of advantage that they can, and playing a Holy Paladin for Zakul at the early stages would be far more beneficial than playing like a Mistweaver. Or playing a Brewmaster Monk for Mythic or Gonzoa is going to be a lot more beneficial than playing some other tank. So all of a sudden, there is a lot of discussion about this. Should you be a meta slave? Should you play a class that is perceived to be strong? And this is even more evident in Mythic Plus. Let's go look at how Mythic Plus scaling in patch 8.3 is going to create a super toxic environment. And believe me, I can guarantee you this. So what's happening in 8.3 is that the dungeon scaling is going to be increased by 45% in Season 4, while it was increased by 30% in the previous seasons. So this is to account for the power creep that you're going to get from, corrupted items, from new essences, and this is going to come with time. You're going to grind your cloak, you're going to be able to equip more corrupted items, and you're going to get stronger and stronger. But when patch 8.3 hits, and you need to do that plus 15, because plus 15 is gonna drop you the highest loot from the weekly cache. The weekly cache is gonna have like a definite corrupted item, except if it's going to be a trinket, and you need to get it. Everyone's gonna want to get that plus 15, and right now the plus 15 in patch 8.3 is going to feel like a 19 right now. So if you're a type of player that's been doing plus 15s right now, hasn't really stepped into 16s, 17s, 18s, 19s, you're gonna have a really hard time when 8.3 comes out in order to get your weekly cache, especially because you might not have corrupted items, you might not have you definitely not have the new essences and things like that. So it's going to be really tough. Everyone's going to be super toxic, everyone's going to want to invite classes that are perceived to be strong in Mythic Plus, and you can't do anything about it. That's just the way the players play. Players want to have the max advantage in their keys. I highly advise players, a week before 8.3 comes out, make sure you get the highest key possible. Because what's gonna happen if you get like a 19, 18, 17 or something, that key is going to be downgraded. I'm not sure by how much, because Blizzard always changes it before the patch is released. It's possible that you might get that plus 15 key for 8.3. It's going to be really hard for you to do if you're not used to it, but there is going to be Basandi's buff if you don't do it in time. So even if you don't do it in time, you'll get this buff, you'll finish the dungeon, and you'll get your Mythic weekly cache for that given week. So I highly advise people to do that, because otherwise you're going to be stuck in this, hey, we need a Resto Druid, hey, we need this class, we can only do this with triple rogues or whatever nonsense to get this plus 15 done. And all these classes that are off meta, you're gonna have a really hard time. So this discussion, should you play a meta class, should you play a class that you enjoy the most, depends on what you want to do. Depends on how much you want to climb. Are you going to be doing Mythic raiding? Do you want to help your raid? Are you a type of player that solos content in Mythic Plus, that queues up? Because let's be honest, and I want to read your comments below, how often as a non-meta class do you get declined even in these plus 10 keys? Even with high IO score? Because it happens. And in 8.3, the toxicity is going to be doubled, at least in my opinion. Again guys, let me know how you feel about this video. I do advise people to play the class that they enjoy the most. If you're a type of player that's pushing high-end content, you might be forced to play a class that you might not fully enjoy to give you a better advantage, because you have to remember, it is a competitive game. For example, if you play a Resto Druid in Mythic Raiding Guild and you have like 3 other Holy Paladins, you might have to sit out on bosses. And I was considering this because I wanted to play Resto Druid in 8.3, but in raids, I feel it's going to be really tough to justify a spot for Resto Druid over something like a Holy Paladin. And I'm stuck in this predicament myself. Let me know your experiences. Thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next guide.